Okay, so this is update number 5. I've done quite a bit. I've added I've added phases. So there's phase 0, which is adding cards to your reserve hand, and there is phase 1, which is the play phase, where you can play cards to the center deck and draw cards, and there's card limitations and stuff. I've also added rules, so there's only certain cards you can play at certain times or on top of other certain cards. There's not any displays or anything to tell you right now. But if you know the rules, you should be fine. But I've also added the penalty of if you don't have any playable cards, it will make you pick up the center deck. For that to work, I added a function that runs every time you draw a card, and after that drawn card has been assigned to your main hand array, it checks every main hand array against a card playability function, which will return true or false. And if all of the cards in there return false, then it forces you to pick up the center deck. I have also added magic cards and their abilities. The magic cards are 2, 5, 7, and 10. The 2 can be played on any card and restarts the deck. The 5 can also be played on any card, but it doesn't have any intrinsic value. So whatever non-5 card came before the 5 is the value of the top card. So essentially the 5 is a mirror card. It has whatever value comes before it. So if you have an ace and then a 5, the next card has to have the rule that lets it be able to be played on an ace. If you have an ace and a 5 and a 5 and a 5, so 3 5s after the ace, you still have to play something that can only be played on an ace. So the 7 reverses a deck so that you have to play something equal to or below the 7. And a 10 blows up the deck. So I've wrote a function that will destroy the center deck and the 10 that was added to it and move it to something called the trash deck. The trash deck, much like the display deck, will display a back image to represent that there are cards in the trash deck. So let's get into it. So you're given 6 cards. Right now we are in phase 0. So for the sake of representing magic cards, I'm going to get rid of the 9, the ace, and the 6. So we'll play a 7. 7 requires us to play something below the 7, so we'll play a 5. We could have played a 5 anyway, so this 5 is equal to the 7 before it. So if we try to play a jack, we won't be able to, because this right now is equal to a 7. So we can play a 6. We'll try to play another 7. We'll play another 7. So now we can play a 3. Again, we can't play the jack, but we can play a 3. So now we can play the jack. We can't play, so we won't be able to play this 4. And I won't be able to draw a card, draw a card because I'm at max. So we'll play a 10, destroy the center deck. So now we see a back image to represent those cards in the trash deck. And we'll draw a card. So now we can play any card here. So we'll play the 4. So I can't play a card also until I draw a card and I'm at 3. So we'll play the jack. 2. I'm going to kind of speed run this. Okay, so to represent me picking up the center deck, I'll just go ahead and play the ace. Shoot, we got a 5. That kind of sucks. Okay, we got another ace. Damn, we got a 10. That sucks. Okay, I'll play 6, 7, 3, queen. So look, we just picked up the center deck to show that there's the penalty there if you don't have any playable cards. And now I still won't be able to draw, but I can go ahead and play cards. So now the center deck has gone away, and you'll notice that we can play cards when we're below 3 because the center deck is gone, so there's no cards you can draw from. And so there we've just kind of got the win for now. In later versions, you'll be able to play this backhand until you're at 0, and then after that, we'll have another player. So let's go ahead and look at the code. So we're going to start with this function here, card playability. So the way this works is it sets a played card value. The played card is the card that you clicked on in your hand and you're trying to send to the center deck. Sets the value of that to the card value, or the value that's outputted by the card value function. And so we'll go up to that. So here's the function. It essentially slices off the ID of a card and checks where its index would be on the value array. So here's the array for this. So this is the order of this is the order cards can be played in. So you can't play a jack on a 6, but you can play a jack on a 9, for instance. So this will return an index, which is then used as value. Okay. So first in the function, we set the last card value to 0. This is so that this is for when the center deck is empty. If the center deck is not empty, we set last card value to whatever is the non-5, or whatever output comes from non-5. And we'll see that function up here. So this function is essentially cycling in reverse through the center deck array to find a card that does not fit on the third index of the values array. And because everything with code really starts from 0, you have to go 0, 1, 2, 3. And so whatever is at that 3 in the values array is what it is checking against. And of course that 3 is a 5. So once it finds something that's not a 3 in an index, it returns whatever that object, it returns the value of that object. And of course the value is just the index of that card in the values array. So this will return an index for us. So let's go down. So this again returns an index. So if phase is 0, which means we're putting cards into our reserve hand, then we can play every card. So it just automatically returns true because any card can be placed into your reserve hand. Now, if the current phase is 1, then we're checking if the center deck is higher than 0. If the center deck is higher than 0, we check what card you're trying to play. If you're trying to play a 5, a 2, or a 10, it can be placed on anything. And so we return true, meaning the card gets placed. Here we're checking to see if the last card is a 7. If the last card is a 7, we're checking to see if the card you are playing is less than or equal to a 7. If it is less than or equal to a 7, it returns true. And then this is just checking if none of these hit, it checks if the card being played is greater than or equal to 7. And then here we have has playable cards. This is being called when you click on the draw deck. And essentially what's happening is it's just taking in the array of your main hand. It's then running every card through card probability, or playability, sorry. And then if any of those return true, it'll return true. If they all return false, then it'll return false. After it has returned false, then it will draw the center deck, which is then called up here. So we have pickup deck, which is the function that draws the center deck to your main hand. And then similar to this, we have blow up deck, which moves the center deck to the trash deck. And then here is just our function for displaying the trash deck, which is essentially saying that if the trash deck array is greater than 0, then we're attaching the back image element of the last card to the card.position trash deck, which displays it on screen. I believe that is everything we have added today. So as of currently, we are just under 1,000 lines of code, which doesn't mean anything, but I think we're at like 933 right now. And we still haven't even implemented a table for the second player. We haven't even implemented WebSockets and really much of anything. We haven't even implemented you to be able to use your reserve deck. So being able to use your reserve deck will probably easily add us over 1,000. And then adding the second player to be played locally, probably a couple hundred. And then WebSockets will probably put us over 2,000. And then, of course, that's not even talking about a title screen and a tutorial and animations. So it's likely going to be a while. But that's the update for today. Until next time.